All right, I think we get started here. Thanks for your patience. Our music app is called Jockey, and Jockey is a little difficult to use sometimes. So thanks for bearing with us. This is Living on Chain. It's a monthly call that we have on the Gnosis Chain Discord, where we invite the best teams who are building on Gnosis Chain to come give a product demo. And today we are very excited to be joined by the API3 team. And Billy here will give us a really nice product demo. But first, just want to kind of introduce API3 for those who may not be familiar. I was looking over their white paper, and there's some good info in there, of course. So I'm just going to read a little snippet from there. It's critical for decentralized applications to be able to access the kind of services that web APIs offer in order to interact with the real world. Yet these APIs are not natively compatible with decentralized applications. Existing middleman-based interfacing solutions are centralized, insecure, and expensive, and are only being used for lack of a better alternative. API 3 aims for the concept of an API to take the next evolutionary step to meet the inevitably strict decentralization requirements of Web3 without employing third-party intermediaries. So throughout the presentation today, you'll hear this term dAPI, and that refers to this new generation of decentralized APIs. A dAPI is a secure and cost-efficient solution to provide a traditional API service to smart contracts in a decentralized way. So, for example, of course, you have DeFi applications. Typically, they require asset prices to be delivered to a smart contract platform through a data feed. So that's just one example. And Billy, I'm sure will mention many other examples today. So I'll hand it over to you, Billy, and the API3 team. And if you want to introduce yourself first, Billy, that'd be great. And then you can jump into the demo. So thanks for making the time.
For sure. Thank you guys so much. It's again, like I said before, it's so awesome to be on the other side of this Discord monthly call. I'm usually here watching super cool projects like Fileverse and like DAP Node and everything. So awesome. Thank you guys for having me. I'm Billy Jitsu. I know most of your names already. Like we're all friends. I'm hardcore Gnosis user. I've been using it since the XDAI days. Agave, One Hive. So, it's quite the pleasure to do this. And I want to also introduce, the rest of the team. Ben K. Carve, I don't know if you want to do a quick intro.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having us. I lead our ecosystem sub-team. Obviously, very familiar with Gnosis and what you guys are doing. I think Billy actually learned about API3 through QNG being available on your network. About a year later, here we are. So that's super cool to kind of see that loop go back around. And I think Billy will go into that a little bit later. I can see Ashar and Uga here as well. So I don't know if you guys want to get involved in this session. It's open and interactive as such. So if either of you want to say hello quickly, let us know.
I'll let you lead, but hey, Uga, my name, product lead for the APIs that, Billy's going to introduce them.
Ashar here. I also lead the DeFi team at API3. But I'll let Billy take this whole session.
For sure. Yeah, just so you know, they're a bit modest. They are the gigabrains behind most of these things happening. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I have a PowerPoint ready to go. We might skip a few so I don't bore you too much because Gnosis folks are a little bit more savvy in things that are happening. But just a quick intro of what API3 is. And I don't know if you want to speak on this, Ben, or if you want me to take that one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just for some, I was going to go through the background of API3 very quickly. And kind of introduce what you just touched upon, John, from the white paper, a little bit about the architecture and what we're building. The team at API3, they have been involved with Oracle since 2018. They were originally operating a marketplace on the Chainlink network and saw some of the challenges directly from that occur when connecting APIs to the blockchain. 2020, we saw the white paper being created. I think just after that, the year after that, we kind of formalized the DAO. We're now about 35 to 40 people globally distributed, like most entities operating in the space. And yeah, what we really focused on is developing and like implementing first party oracles. The kind of the history of the space goes back to Oracleize, which I believe was the first oracle that existed. And if you look on the next slide, Billy, the Chainlink launched in 2017, and what that introduced was the ability for smart contracts to have additional functionality. I won't dwell too much on this within this space because I imagine there's a good level of knowledge around what oracles do. The year after, it wasn't quite the year after that, but Chainlink obviously introduced a system that enabled DeFi to be executed on. We saw a lot of growth in that space from 2019, 2020. But we didn't see a lot of innovation within the Oracle category itself. There's been an incumbent player. There's been one entity that is mainly leading the category. And API3 launched to basically offer an alternative solution in the form of creating an Oracle node that is deployed by the API provider, by the data provider, operated by the data provider, and serving data directly on chain from the source as such. Last year, not last year, 2 years ago, we released the first version of Airnode, version 0.1, which seems like a long time ago, and now on v0.12, just for context, soon to be 1.0. And we've deployed to hundreds of data providers. We've learned a lot of lessons around what works and what doesn't work along the way. 2022, we released API3 QRNG, which I just referenced at the start of the call, which is an Oracle service serving quantum random numbers from quantum RNG APIs directly on chain in a very easy to access and effectively permissionless mechanism, which I guess represents the scalability of what we've built. And fast forward to today, Billy's going to go into this a lot more, but we've just released the kind of aggregated first party data feeds for DeFi. But first, I thought just diving into what is a first party Oracle node might be a good starting point. Shah or Ugo, if you want to add to this, please do. But effectively what we believed is that for access to real world data to scale, there needs to be an easy way for API providers to run their own Oracle nodes. Thus, we kind of created Airnode. It was what was outlined in the white paper, and it's what we've built and implemented. It's very quick to set up. It's maintenance free once it's deployed. It's fully open source, so there's no need to speak to the API3 team if you want to utilize an API. And it consists of two key parts. One is the on-chain protocol. So how do you serve that data on-chain? What protocol do you use? And what's the best protocol to use for your use case? For example, if you're serving weather data, there might be differences between which protocol you use compared to maybe keeping a price updated on-chain. And then there's the off-chain mechanism, which is Airnode. I think the next slide might go into that a little bit further as well. So you can see on the right hand side, you have the requester contract in your smart contract. That interacts with an Airnode RRP contract. This is just for non-DeFi use cases, just for context, but it's an overview of the general architecture. And that Airnode RRP contract waits for requests from your smart contract. Airnode effectively is a Lambda function. It wakes up every minute or so, waits for requests from the on-chain contract, retrieves the value from the API, and effectively serves that back on-chain. Very simple concept. You can implement this in many different ways. If you wanted to perhaps utilize social analytics data, you could deploy Airnodes to your social analytics APIs that you might use in Web 2, and you turn that into a smart contract address, and you can request that data as you need to using that requester functionality. Airnodes deployed as I've referenced before, by the API providers, but it's effectively wrapping the API in their own cloud architecture, cloud infrastructure. So you can consider it being, something that's operated by the API provider. You're extracting that data directly from the source. There's no intermediary step. There's no middleman. It gives the API providers full ownership of the data that they've produced. These people are often entire businesses dedicated to just serving data and services through APIs. So it makes sense for them to be able to control and kind of keep an understanding of who is consuming that data on the other side. I think the next slide might dive into that a bit more, Billy. And so you can see on the right hand side, you can see what is the first party Oracle architecture. For DeFi, we have a very similar aggregation methods. Besides, from a numerical point of view, the key difference is that the aggregation is happening on the native chain. So we serve data directly from the API provider to Gnosis. There's no mid-level bridge seaming that data across from different chains, which makes for a much more secure method of consuming that data. And beyond that, you can see the two differences on the left and right is down to more so the way that where the Oracle is operating and where the Oracle is hosted. You can see on the left-hand side that there's what's become the norm as such is the third-party operators consuming APIs without any understanding of who that API provider is as such. You're just trusting that the node operator is doing what they say they're doing, which if you believe in don't trust verify, it perhaps is a bit illogical for you to be putting that trust assumption there when you're considering that DeFi is securing so much value. And then on the right hand side, you can go down and literally look at the DNS records of where that Airnode is hosted, make sure it is the API provider. You can see directly, very transparently who that data source is. And really, when it comes to operating DeFi, I think that transparency is equally as important when it comes to decentralizing a feed or understanding what a decentralized feed is. You could ask the question, if something is not transparent, is it sufficiently decentralized? You're not sure if you're aggregating, you're not sure what you're aggregating within that feed. And we think that having the ability to go in and understand that is crucial when it comes to serving the end product as such, which is the APIs. I guess just another key difference here is that API3 operates as a DAO. We have very open and transparent governance. You can come into the forums and contribute. If you're an API provider, you can come in and contribute to governance. You can get involved with maybe initiatives. If you're a dApp consuming the data on the flip side, you can do exactly the same thing. It's something that we think is, again, quite important for the long-term view of where does DeFi go, and infrastructure should have equally transparent and decentralized governance mechanisms to mitigate that single point of failure, not just the feed itself. And we believe that's what API3 DAO achieves. And I think I'm just going to pause that there and pass it back over to you, Billy, because I think that's a fair overview.
For sure. No worries. I just want to come back to this one because I had a long time struggling with third-party and first-party oracles. So right here, we can definitely prove that, mathematically prove through the DNS records that we can say the source is coming from the source they're saying. From here, we don't know. So I'm going to say, let's say CoinGecko is one of the sources of Oracle. We don't know if Oracle 1, 2, or 3 are all using CoinGecko. So if CoinGecko goes down, Oracle 1, 2, and 3, we're going to have issues because they're going to give us the same data. We have no way to prove that source is where it's coming from. So that's kind of the difference between first and third party oracles and layman's terms that help me understand what the difference is. So you don't know where the source is coming from. So they could be all getting it from the same source. I remember there was an article saying, the proof of reserves was all coming 16 nodes on the same source. So if you can't prove where the source is coming from, then it's kind of don't trust verify. I know that's a big thing on Gnosis chain, the Gnosis chain users. So definitely wanted to point that out. Let me scoop forward. So you can use your own chain API to run your own API. I actually did it myself with the supporting guide on Hacker Noon of how to do this. actually quite easy to do so as long as you follow the tutorial. You can run your own API. You can run your own price feed if you wanted to, or like your own prediction market or anything that you wanted to, whatever you wanted to provide as a source of data, you can totally do that. And there's a full demonstration here. We'll have that in our docs just in case. Okay, so what we're here for, oracles and DeFi, right? All right, and I cannot see the text on here. There we go. So oracles, like you say, smart contracts on the chain level can't read them, right? They're all off chain. They're in AWS or in your private server. So using the AirNode system, we're able to transfer data from off chain to on chain to be used on the network, right? So for our case, it's going to be price feeds. I'll skip through all this right here just because I want to get right into the code part. How's DeFi being brought on chain, right? Price information is maintained on chain according to the certain conditions, right? So we're going to update feeds. Every block is impractical to cost limitations, right? So on Gnosis chain, it's a thousandth of a penny to update a block, just run a transaction, which is not bad. But on ETH mainnet, it's bad, right? So we have to choose, what's going to be the best way, what's the given standard, what are other people doing. And so we have the two dominant architectures. You have push oracles and pull oracles. And I'm going to go into that a little bit just because it helps me understand why things are important. So what are push oracles is basically anytime the price changes in a certain percentage threshold, it will then force that transaction on chain to update on chain. So let's say ETH was $1,000 and we had a deviation of a percentage, right? That would be $10. So the moment it hits 990, then the oracle will then push and then it'll update to reflect on chain. So if it went to 999, 998, it would not reflect on the chain. We also have a heartbeat. So every time, there is a certain time frame that we set, every hour on the hour, every day, it will then update on that time frame. So not whether the price changed or not, it will then update. So it's pushing these transactions automatically, methodically, depending on whether a price changes or if a certain time frame hits. Right. So the goal right now is to reflect the real world on chain by updating when it's relevant to save the cost. Because if we did it every second on the second, we're basically running a transaction and paying gas every time it goes. So it's just not cost efficient at all. So we know there is a certain threshold that we use. The problems with push oracles is everybody wants the latest price, right? Everybody wants, like when it goes to 999, everybody wants it instead of 1,000. But who's willing to pay the gas cost, right? So that's kind of the limitation of there's got to be certain thresholds we have in order to limit the gas cost versus what it makes sense. So that's why like 1% deviation and certain heartbeat times have become the standard. What are pull oracles? Let's say you are, like for example, like say GMX, right? You're going to do a long position on there. And so you don't really need to know the price until you actually open your position. So at the time of you paying for your transaction, it will then pull the price of, let's say, ETH, and then open your position up. And then it'll actually pull the data on chain for that specific transaction. Before then, it didn't matter because you weren't pulling that transaction. So it didn't matter what the price was until you actually did your actual transaction itself. And then for a searcher bot looking to liquidate a position, let's say it sees it on CoinGecko, oh, we're 995 and I can liquidate this position. It's going to request to pull that oracle price on chain so then they can do the liquidation. So they're basically doing a request to pull the data down and then execute their transaction depending on that. The problem is we're not getting real-time data analytics, right? So someone would have to constantly be pulling it down in order to do so. So it has, it doesn't really make sense for a DeFi oracle to do that unless they're constantly pulling. And again, it's the same issue of pulling gas. So problems with pull oracles, right? Since there's no active maintenance, it'll require the right chain whenever it's needed. Who's going to pay for the updates, right? Who's paying for the gas? It goes down to the dApp or the chain that's going to be doing that. So it's not ideal in a sense. And just some more technical details on people talking about it. And this is for the future. This is just something really cool. This is something that's not done yet, but I did want to kind of touch on it as for something in the future that is being discussed is Oracle extractable value. This is like plans for the future of what could be possible on API3. So we all know about MEV, right? We all know about like the big things happening with like meme tokens and sandwich attacks. For those that don't know, just a quick breakdown. Miners or validators are watching your transactions, and let's say you want to swap a token, right? And the token is $1, and so the searcher, the MEV, will then look at your transaction, see that you're going to spend this amount. They will then buy tokens before you, and then increase the price. You buy the tokens at a much more expensive price, and then after that they sell their tokens and make a profit off your transaction, right? And that's, a constant problem that we're dealing with across, multiple chains and everything. So what is OEV is Oracle extractable value. Kind of the same issue we were just discussing about push oracles, right? So we see that there is an opportunity, and I'm going to use GMX because it's one of the most popular ones. Is the price of ETH is 990, right? And then we can see on CoinGecko or on CoinMarketCap that it's 995. So then I can write a bot that is going to, increase my position 100 times, 50 times on there because I know it's going to happen, but the price oracle hasn't pushed the update on chain yet. So I'm going to go ahead and write a quick bot to, just manage that position, let the price update, and then sell my position and make a profit. Right? And so that is pretty much, what's kind of happening on a lot of these, futures and perpetual projects, right? So they're losing money because of these kind of bots here. So I kind of jumped ahead a little bit because we're going to go right into the price oracles. But, they're monitoring basically, buying and sell access chains is basically infinite money glitch because they keep doing it every time they see the price change. They're monitoring something off chain and then they're waiting for it to happen on chain. And then they sell the position, rinse and repeat over and over again. So OAV awareness is something where, we as the dApp or we as the searcher can then, request for the price oracle to update before that happens, and then, force a liquidation and then split the profits with the dApp. So it's something that's kind of cool where now the dApps and people can kind of it's very PvP, but now users and the dApps can then split the profits with users to keep everybody honest. And it's a way to counter, this MEV, OEV type of attack on these type of features. I'm not going to get too detailed on it because it's something that we are discussing. It's pretty cool. I thought I'd mention it of what can be possible of the certain deviations and change of price, and it kind of goes into the demo that I'm going to show you on the marketplace of the types of deviation and heartbeats. But let's get into the code, right? Let's get right into it. Let me go ahead and close this out and just show you how easy it is to work here on this. So here's a small contract. Maybe you've seen it before on my Twitter. It is about 17 lines of solid code. All we're using is the iProxy interface from the API3 library, and then just the Open Zeppelin ownable, just to make sure that when we set our proxy address, that only we can set our price. So for this case, I'm going to use ETH as a price feed, and then we're just going to read it. So I already have myself compiled, and I'm on Gnosis chain. I'm going to deploy it on mainnet because it is super cheap, right? Cheaper than Gurley, right? And so let me go ahead and deploy this. And if you have questions, feel free. I'm going to monitor the questions on the side. And so I have this.
Basically, can you explain what's happening in the read data feed function?
Yes, definitely. Okay. So once we set our proxy address, and I'm going to show you where we're going to get that proxy address. In the read data value, we're going to basically call this proxy address that I'm going to show you in just a second. It's going to return two arguments. One is going to be the value, which is actually the price of the actual asset that we're looking for. In our case, is going to be ETH to USD, and the timestamp. So that way we can verify to make sure that our timestamp is not stale. Like if we haven't updated in a certain amount of time, we know now that, okay, our timestamp is invalid. We're going to have something in our function to, make sure that we stop, or, some kind of emergency function to make sure. Otherwise, if we don't have a price, that's stale, then, if it's not reflecting on chain, people will obviously take advantage. Here, by default, it is an int 224. And just I did a quick conversion to typecast it to UNT256, so you can modify it to any existing dApp that requires an int 256 or UNT256. So a quick example of what's happening here. So I have the contract deployed on Gnosis chain, and so we'll have to set our proxy address. So if we head over to API3.org, you can see that it has all the information. We're going to go ahead and go explore data feeds. And in here, we can see all the different price feeds we have across all the different chains. We have equities, cryptocurrencies, but let's go ahead and look for ETH. And then you'll see we have ETHUSD. We're going to go right over to Gnosis chain, and let's get into the details and specifics here. So it is doing on-chain value. It's doing its markets. Here's the very important details right now. We're using a managed dAPI, and there's an option for self-funded. With the managed, we have multiple sources, multiple price feed sources, which are aggregated, and you can actually verify the details yourself. So if you click on the view details, you can see where we're getting the data from, and then you can prove it with each one unique data feed. We have a repo that you can do, so you can just calculate that to make sure that it actually calls back to that specific data feed. So we have all these aggregated here. Talking to Ugur, he said, that they did this meticulously to make sure that all the data feeds are, established. There were certain data feeds that didn't make the cut because they didn't, keep up, or they were giving invalid data. So these are all kind of vetted through the API3 team to make sure that these are the most solid ones that are available. And so these are all aggregated across into the single data feed, will then give you your price feed. Right here, you'll see that we have a managed and self-funded. Self-funded is a public good. So, I can't use that option right now because we did pay for the managed. So the one thing about self-funded is that a single price feed, as long as it has gas, everybody on the chain can use it. It is a 1% deviation with a 24-hour heartbeat. If somebody upgrades that on the chain, whether Gnosis chain or specific dApp like Agave or something like that, upgrades the self-funded to a managed, everybody on the chain gets a free upgrade. So anybody using this proxy contract address, whether you're using the free version or not, will then get a free upgrade to use on the managed dAPI. So in the managed dAPI, you can have different options. So remember, we're talking about the 1% deviation of ETH being $1,000, and then it only changes at if it goes 1% deviation, so it only change at 990. So that's the 1% deviation. That is the standard across most oracles. We also have a 0.5 deviation and a 0.25 deviation. So any change of price that has a smaller change will then upgrade on there. These currently, we actually bought it for the chain. So it is a 1% deviation that is live. So anybody on the chain can use this now. It is basically free to use until January 25th, 2024. So it's open for anybody to play with. But we are having a option. So if somebody says, okay, 1% deviation is great, but for my dApp or my particular use, I need a 0.5 deviation, they will then upgrade it, and then everybody using this specific proxy will then get that upgrade as well. So then the chain can purchase it, a specific dApp can purchase it, or dApps can come together and do the purchase, and it is super cheap. I'm going to do the 0.5 deviation just to see. So for a 0.5 deviation on Gnosis chain, the price for 6 months is $118 an XDAI flat. That's it. That's all it costs for it. So in order to, get this particular price feed for the entire chain for 6 months, less than $120. So super cool, super cheap. that part kind of blew my mind when I heard that. So that would get upgraded, and then 0.25, same thing. So 118, and these is kind of like, I think, over budgeted right now because it is still fairly new, and we're watching the traffic on Gnosis chain. So depending on like how much traffic is being used on Gnosis chains, it'll be adjusted to see how much use, and most likely it could be don't quote me, but slightly a little bit cheaper. It could be more expensive if there's more usage, but it really depends on the gas level. I think Ugur had something to say.
Just to jump in, we just have a minimum price. I think we have a min price of $19 per month, so that is the minimum we're charging across the board, just so we don't essentially get spammed. Otherwise, somebody can come and pay $100 on various networks, and now we have to maintain over 120 feeds across 13, across very cheap networks. It creates too much overhead, so to speak. So this is most likely, in most cases, the lowest you will ever see.
So yeah, and one other thing that's really important is it is just gas based. So it is based on your network. So there's no token that you have to buy or anything. It's literally the gas network. So it's paid in XDAI. So we're not, possible victim of any bridge attacks or anything, tokens of losing value. It's chain specific. So it's literally dedicated to the chain. So let's go ahead and demo this out. I'm going to go ahead and copy the proxy address and go back into the remix. So I have this simple contract. I'm going to go ahead and set my proxy address to ETHUSD. I'm going to send that transaction out. Wait for it to come through. And now we can read our data feed. So I'm going to go ahead and call the read data feed function. I'm going to try to make this a little bit larger. And you see that we have the 18 decimals is $1,631.12 with some trailing zeros at this timestamp. And if you go back into the marketplace, $1,631.12 with our given timestamp. So that way you can check and keep the history of it and verify it at any time. It's pretty straightforward, really easy. We make it very easy for anybody to integrate any existing dApps. Something like Agave, that's a borrow lending service, any perpetuals that are coming out, anything planning to come out on Gnosis chain. Again, the ETHUSD feed is ready to go. I think I did the math on the entire feed. Like if you were to buy every price feed on that's available for the entire chain for everything calling equities and cryptocurrencies. I think for 6 months on the 1% deviation was just like under 16K for the entire chain for every DApp to use. So like it's like beyond super cheap. So it is super super cool, very easy to use. Very simplistic. The way that it was designed for me as a DApp developer to be able to access a price feed with literally an interface and then just reading data value and setting a proxy was mind blowing to me. So I thought that was super cool. If we have any other questions, I can definitely dive deep in that. But this is pretty much our product demo of what we have.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. That was super interesting. And yeah, now's a good time for just general questions. So if anyone has a question, you can either unmute your mic or you can type it in the chat here and I'll read it for you. Looks like
I think
Tech has a question.
Mm-hmm. Or he was tricking me.
I have a quick question about like autonomous agents and AI. So do you have any use cases right now where projects are making use of your dAPIs with AI agents? Like, is that possible that an AI could come and grab your dAPI and make use of it? I mean,
I'm seeing some entities not directly using the APIs as such, but within DeFi, they're starting to become risk models perhaps that are obviously using AI to kind of understand things like credit scores or perhaps like lending ratios, etc., that are safe or unsafe. But yeah, it's really kind of supplementary to how a dAPI would be used within DeFi. Like the dAPIs here, their core purpose is to keep a price maintained as securely and efficiently and transparently as possible, so that a DeFi protocol can execute either a liquidation or perhaps execute a trade position in a perpetual DEX. But yeah, not directly as such. We have seen.
There is Open Fabric that uses Open Fabric is an AI blockchain, and they're using Airnode to sort of communicate with their AI servers. So that's like the one main use case I see of AI directly. But then, yeah, the indirect use cases like Ben mentioned are there as well. So
yeah, I was going to say I saw somebody try and deploy Airnode to a ChatGPT API, and utilize the response from ChatGPT to update whatever's being served in their contract, but not a DeFi. That's not a DeFi use case as such.
cool. Yeah, just curious. So there's obviously a lot going on with AI and specifically with Gnosis. So it's something that's on the top of my mind, and that's really cool detail about like data provenance with API3 that you can prove where the data is coming from. I didn't really understand that aspect of it, so thanks for going over that. Let's see, text question or comment was, just going to say this is really neat. I found my next import to play with on Scaffold ETH. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely reach out. Like, I mean, part of the dev relations, and I'm always hanging out in Gnosis chain anyway. I mean, definitely reach out. I've had my problems with certain things, so I'm more than happy to help. Like, I'm always in the trenches building something, so definitely reach out. Don't be afraid to drop me a DM or anything. So, literally my job. So reach out. If
Cool.
there isn't
And
any questions, oh, go for it.
yeah, I was just going to say you have a giveaway that you were talking about before we started the call.
Yeah, definitely. So, everybody knows I'm a big fan of Gnosis Chain, and literally the reason I found API3 was, because I was trying to find something on Gnosis Chain and, finding random numbers. And, when I was looking at Chainlink, like they didn't support Gnosis Chain. So I was like, all right, what can I do? And by conversation, someone said, hey, check out API3. They have this QRNG thing. I'm like, whoa, no way. And like I discovered it and I built the cube based off of it. And so this is kind of like now almost a historical thing of like dApps that used to exist on Gnosis Chain or still existing right now. And I use this to help onboard people onto Gnosis Chain by like giving them some NFTs and having them a reason to actually join Gnosis Chain and do stuff. So as like a thank you guys, I'm giving away one of each. So whatever you guys want to put your wallet address and tell me what you want. I only have 9 Gnosis NFTs left, so just in case, it's kind of one of my personal faves. But definitely, if you're into it, drop your wallet address, tell me which one you want, and I will definitely airdrop those to you. So, let me know which one you want, and definitely, like, I got much love for Gnosis Chain. So, I think I know most of everybody here, or have at least talked to you. So, it's awesome to be here.
Wow, super cool. Thank you so much. That's that's awesome. These are really good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if we don't have any other questions, we can wrap it up there. I know everyone, of course, is busy. So Billy and the rest of the team, thank you so much for giving us your time and walking through that super informative demo. Are there any like events that you want to plug real quick before we get off the call, or direct people to a website or anything like that?
Definitely check out. Oh, go for it, Ben.
No, John. Yeah, I was just on that final note. I was going to ask if we, obviously doing this with a kind of sentiment check or kind of in alignment with you guys is better, but whether we could post some information about this on your forums, or if there's anywhere that we can, I guess, just let people know that this tool is available to them beyond the ecosystem space that you guys have. That might be a good thing for us to post to.
Yeah, for sure. We can talk further on Telegram, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're more than welcome to post on our forum in the general channel. But we can talk further about co-marketing efforts or something like that, where we can extend your reach to our developers and just general audience.
Just a heads up, we are on your docs, guys, just in case.
Yeah.
If you look at the docs and Gnosis chain, API3 is there, and it kind of discusses, all the details of the QRNG and the dAPIs. So just in case you get stuck, if you have questions, again, feel free to reach out. You can always reach us at api3.org. It'll take you through like the Discord and the Twitter, or just reach out to me. Honestly, like if that's easier and if less headache to do it, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help anybody and everybody do migration or anything that they need to do. So yeah, yep, holler at us.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys, and we will see you all next month. This call happens or should happen on the first Wednesday of each month. We've been moving around a little bit, so just stay tuned. But next month it should be on October 4th. That's a Wednesday, same time, 3 p.m. UTC. And we'll have another team come on and run a demo. So thank you so much, guys. Everyone have a great few weeks. And if you're at DAppNode, please stop by the Gnosis Chain booth and say what's up. We would love to hang out with you. That's happening in Berlin next week from the 11th to the 13th at Radio System. Going to be a packed week for Berlin Blockchain Week. So yeah, hope to see you there if you're around. If not, we'll see you on chain. And thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.
Nice. Sure. Hope you have a good week.
All right, guys.
Thanks for having us,
Also,
guys.
if you guys are in ETH New York or ETH Chicago, I will be there representing API3 as well. So I think ETH New York will probably be a semi-big one. So I'll be there just in case.
Nice. There'll be some Gnosis people there too. So we'll see you there.
Yeah, I'll probably catch up with Penable. I think he's going to be there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right,
All right.
guys.
Take care, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Cheers.
Yep.